You know, it's still kind of fresh. I'm still trying to get the fog out. So, oh man, I'm the gum.
So
No,
the idea I had for the next topic, and I can't remember if we've actually done this before, but it seemed relevant recently with something I watched. Is there something that you've watched, played, or read as an adult that you have a new perspective on or new understanding of that you didn't quite see the same way when you were as a kid?
Hmm.
You know, I'll give you an example, and I'll talk about it during the show. Is that I just recently sat down and watched Mrs. Doubtfire with my wife, and it was my first time ever watching that as a parent, as a married adult parent, and I see the movie completely different now.
Interesting. Yeah, okay, I got a good one too.
I don't have to think about that.
and hopefully you guys talking will generate some other ideas too. But that's the initial one that I recently experienced. I mean, it could be anything from cartoons that you saw as a kid and you go back and watch them now. Like I was going back watching He-Man, or maybe it's even the perception of, you know, as a kid, as a kid you're thinking more about, oh, the rebels fighting against the man, and then as an adult you're thinking, hey, those people are putting, you know, that's a company keeping people employed.
All right, I got this. We can go with this.
Yeah, I got some for that.
Oh, I forgot my logo. For our logo. Let's see.
Oh man, that's an old vending machine. That's a good one. It's got the gum all by itself.
Yeah.
Make sure it's listed as episode 96. I don't know if that was changed yet.
It was actually. Yay me.
Okay. I haven't seen
Hey,
it.
Sean's here.
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg had a vending machine joke. Like how food tastes different when it's not in a vending machine. It's like, so now when I go to the store and get a bag of chips, I just throw it on the ground so it reaches its optimal flavor potential.
I thought Mitch Hedberg was awesome.
Yeah.
He was the best.
So good. If you have legs and are flammable, you are never blocking a fire exit.
Was the one, do you want a frozen banana? And I was like, nah, but later I might want a regular banana. So yeah.
Just like his one about grapes. It's like, I want a wine, but that was grapes. Now you just have to wait a while.
Yeah.
I butchered that, but it's something like that.
What was the one about the potato? Like baked potatoes takes forever. I can't remember it.
I don't know, but every time I buy donuts and they hand me a receipt, I cannot stop thinking about Mitch Hedberg. It's a donut. We don't need to bring ink and paper into this.
Right.
Like if there was ever a scenario, it was like, don't act like you didn't pay for that donut. I got the proof right here.
Josh, I just uploaded the picture of what I'm making, so.
If somebody didn't know what that was, that would look pretty phallic.
Yeah. You turn it upside down, there's rockets.
Yeah, you could do 3.
And you're gonna make that dome display cases for this?
Well, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna try and.
Oh, you're gonna buy it, right?
Yeah, because it's. I don't know if I can 3D print that.
I've got some glass ones we can look. I've got some. I picked a couple of them up over the last year since we've been talking about this. So.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. What I might do is once I get this all said and done, I might just send you the files.
Well, with that, I mean, you can make a simple wooden base, get a little piece of brass plaque that says Metroid, little Metroid head carved in it.
Yeah.
Make that thing. Put the dome over top. That's easy.
Damn. Couple $100.
I was thinking $100 right off the bat.
Think so?
Yeah.
There's your start.
At least
point.
if it lights up, hell yeah. Easy.
Yeah, if you're setting it up as like an automatic display, almost like a collector's item, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Nice.
Perceived value, man. You put it in that fancy display case.
Well, ultimately,
Everything
what
in
I
there.
wanted to do was, I don't know if this is too ambitious. I wanted to try and find some kind of artwork of what the base that they actually sat on in the video game looked like, and then make that, and then get a trigger under the dome. So if you press down on the dome, it makes the fanfare.
Yeah, when you get it.
Yeah. But right now I'm just trying to cut it up to see how I can get everything together, get the electronics and the LEDs inside. Then I have to figure out where to put a switch on the thing to get it to turn on.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm still at the beginning of this. I just designed the thing as a whole a couple months back. So now I'm trying to chop it up to see how it'll fit back together.
Very cool. I'm ready when you guys are.
Hit it.
I'm still thinking about my example. I don't know.
I have a simple one.
Because it could be even like a cartoon series you watched as a kid and go back and look at it now. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Video game, whatever. Hello, Internet. This is another episode of Your Midweek Geek. This is episode 96 of the Making Geeks podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. And for this special episode, we have our wonderful 4 presenters again, starting with Mr. Josh Price.
Hey, everybody.
And Mr. Mark O'Keefe.
Hello.
And, of course, Mr. Wes Swain.
Hello.
And I am Sean Jolliker. What's up, guys?
Not much.
It's been a while.
Has been a while.
Yep.
How's your Wednesday, beginning of your week going, you guys?
It's going really well. I had a case
My
of the
prediction
Mondays.
is that it'll be going good, yeah.
I've been playing with my Labo, and it's great.
so much fun. You should check out my Instagram. There's so many good pictures on there.
Can you believe that thing it does that no one knew it could do?
It's remarkable.
Yes. If you haven't been following along, we've been doing a couple of double recordings to make sure that we're on pace for hitting episode 100. So when we record this second episode, we've already been talking for a while. We're trying to make these weird predictions of how we're going to be in the future. And of course, Josh and Wes are already anticipating all the fun they're going to be having with their new toy when it comes out. When is the release date for the Labo anyways?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow.
20th. April 20th.
So by the time that our listeners are hearing this, it would have already been released.
Yep. So go check my video out on it if you're not sure what that is. It's on Geeksmithing's YouTube channel.
Yes.
Sweet. So, is there anything that we didn't talk about on Saturday that you've been excited about? Or been working on? Or hopefully anticipating that you will be working on it?
At this point, I think all of my excitement is being reserved just for Infinity War. I think that's going to kind of... I mean, besides the Nintendo Labo thing, but I don't have a Switch. I think that's going to overshadow everything for me. And trying really, really hard not to listen to what anybody says or watching any more previews, I just want to go in and enjoy that at this point.
Okay, so if we're going to get Daryl on here to do a spoiler cast, and so that we can super geek out about his trip to talk to Adam Savage, we all got to make a real positive effort to go watch this movie.
Yes.
It's going to be a week after because I'm not going to be around the weekend it comes out, unfortunately.
Okay.
Do we want to get the bingo cards out?
You know what? I think maybe we should.
We can send one to Daryl.
I'm so afraid of this movie. I know it's going to be
so
good.
much could go wrong, but
well, no, I know it's going to be a good flick. I just don't want to watch all the people that I've loved over the past 10 years just all blink out and die.
Write it on your bingo card. Who you think is going to die?
I think we should make like the most ridiculous prediction that we could. At the very end, it places the time stone in and then rewinds everything back to the very first Captain America movie. And brings back the Red Skull or something. I don't know.
Well, I always wondered about that because the Tesseract was the transporter. So he didn't die. He got sent somewhere. Where did he go?
He went to DC.
Donovan made a good point that Disney won't kill characters.
Yeah, but this is not
Disney.
This is
Marvel.
That's not true. Quicksilver's dead.
Andy's mom is dead.
That was before Disney took over, though.
Andy's mom is dead.
Was it?
Was it? Actually, I don't know anymore. I don't remember.
No, they owned it for a while. But Ultron's dead.
The guy, Mr. What's his name from Up? His wife is dead.
Oh yeah,
well, she's super dead.
Man.
Bambi's parents. Sorry, Bambi.
Mm-hmm.
Murdering a bunch of people.
Okay,
well, they just have to get, like, vaporized.
Disney is famous, like, if you're a parent... Like, that's the thing. If you're walking around and you're like, wow, my kid's like a Disney princess. Wait a minute. You're about to die.
Elsa?
Han Solo?
Yeah, Han Solo.
Holy crap. I'm getting super depressed with all these people that are dead now.
Elsa's parents
Disney is pretty much a mass murderer.
I never told you guys this, but...
Maybe that leads into our topic that we're going to talk about.
I finally had Mark watch Force Awakens a couple of months ago. And we watch it, everything happens... And I was waiting to see how he was going to react to that one scene. And didn't say anything the entire movie. And after I kind of approached him, I said, well, what do you think about, Han Solo not being around anymore? And his face changed. He completely lost. He couldn't hold it in anymore. He was sobbing for like 5 minutes straight.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I felt more sad watching R2 slip away in The Last Jedi than I did watching Han Solo die. And it's not that he like withered away and died, just what they're doing to his character.
Oh, as far as
and
like,
all R2's character is like.
I'm glad you clarified that. 'Cause I'm like,
no, not that he died.
I saw the damn movie twice. I don't remember that.
Well, he was in a coma for most all of the movies, except for like
little bit parts.
He wakes up from his nap and
at the perfect time.
Yeah, says that very meaningful thing, and then just I'll be back later. Like, no, it made me sad. Mace Windu died, man. Everybody. Okay, we got to get to what we're talking about because we're
You never saw Mace die.
I know Donovan is in the chat is trying to bring all that up right now.
Like he raised a point, and then it's just negating his point. He said Disney doesn't kill people, and then just lists a bunch of people that have died.
No, he's just telling that they've survived, though. He's saying
Han Solo's definitely dead.
Captain Phasma's dead.
Is she?
That one I don't know.
Was she dead?
That one might be iffy. I
don't. Here's the thing. I don't want her to die because I still feel that's like both movies felt like that was just such a waste of that character.
Yep.
I don't care what they do in comic books or in like Rebels or other places. If they died in one of the actual movies, I consider them dead. Don't give me this other junk about them coming back. I
did like
Look at you, Boba Fett.
Darth Maul back. That was neat, and then they finished him off, and the way he died was cool too. Oh yeah, but deaths. Rebels was a little brutal. If anyone is finished with that cartoon.
Not yet.
Oh,
So that's probably a good point to kind of transition to what we're talking about for this show, and kind of looking at the way that we see things now as adults, but comparing that to how we maybe initially perceived things as a kid, seeing some of these different movies, properties, or whatever they might be. And we may not, I don't know, we probably thought about them a certain way as a kid, but of course being an adult now, and especially being a parent, kind of gives us a different perspective on some of these things. And in some cases, it might even be like watching a movie or playing a game for the first time, because you now have this adult perspective and more knowledgeable and experience in all these different things. And I'll kind of start it off with kind of the where this idea came from, and then everybody else can kind of chime in with something they've had a similar experience with. So a couple of days ago, my wife and I sat down and watched Mrs. Doubtfire. Now, I've seen the movie a couple times before, but I saw it around the time that it was released, which I think I was an adult already when that movie came out, but I was not married and I did not have kids. But now watching it with my wife and now being a parent gave me a very different view of that movie, where instead of kind of looking at things from maybe like even an adolescent view or a young adult point of view, I'm looking at it now from the point of view of a parent, and looking at the normal trials and tribulations that a husband and wife might actually have, and looking at the effect of that on the kids, and being able to look at similar struggles in a relationship. While my relationship with my wife may not be the same as portrayed in the movie, I think I'm a little bit more sympathetic and empathetic towards some of those things that they're trying to struggle with and trying to maintain a family and everything like that. So it gave me a really different way of looking at the movie, and I identify with it a lot more than I ever did before.
Do you identify with Daniel? With Rob Williams' character?
In a small way, yes. And my wife actually kind of brought it to my attention, because the initial downfall of their marriage was how almost childlike he was in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And though he'd kind of participate with the kids. And my wife kind of pointed at me and said, "You do that. Not as much as he does in the movie, but you do that to a degree in a way that I can't do or I can't keep up with." And that kind of actually made me sit kind of reflect for him, like, holy crap, I never really thought about that. But yeah, it's something
that... the point in the movie that he makes her out to be the heavy was her big line before she yelled "it's over" a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't that we were looking at, but simply how Robin Williams was a big kid in it, instead of being just instead of being a parent first, and all those other things secondary. So it was something that never would have come up before, and something I never would have probably paid attention to without having these experiences as an adult now.
I remember watching it as a kid and then watching that movie as an adult, and having really no real understanding or realization that like his brother was gay.
That too.
And there was like a whole lot of like blatant, funny gay jokes and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, it just went right over my head. It's just his brother and some guy, and they like to do cool cosplay makeup and then sing a bunch of silly songs and the references that I didn't fully understand.
Timon, right?
Yeah. Actually, what's really funny about that now too is I watched that, being a maker, I'm like, oh look, they're doing a head cast. Oh look, they're doing a silicone mold. So I mean, there's that aspect too. It's actually kind of fun to watch.
We drove by that house in San Francisco. This is Doubtfire's house.
It's so nondescript, I probably never would have been able to, notice.
It really is. But I think my example that came pretty quickly was The Sandlot. And how, like, I don't want a bunch of damn kids hitting the ball over my yard.
You're the guy on the other side of the fence now, yeah?
Yeah, like, I built that fence for a reason, kids. Like, whose ball is this? Like, get your stinking ball out of my yard. And my dog is not bothering anybody. Leave him alone. And so, yeah, there's a definitive point in your life where you start to relate more toward the dog and James Earl Jones than you do the whimsical, baseball team. Just because you put on a pair of Chucks doesn't give you the right to jump in my yard.
See, I looked at that movie differently too as an adult, mainly as, Small's parents. Like, oh, I want my kid to be outside more. I want him to go play with these kids, go play baseball and do these things and climb a tree because, Mark doesn't do all that stuff that often. And kind of this essence of childhood that is a little bit different now and not as carefree. It's like, I want to be to that kind of, 4th of July party. I've never seen a party like that in my life.
Did you ever wonder in Hook when Robin Williams, who forgot that he was Peter Pan and became a corporate goon, and he goes to Neverland and he eventually comes back, does he go back to work and just start that same cycle all over again?
I think he gets a new job.
As Peter Pan? Like, is there another job that is as whimsical as the Neverland pirate fighter?
Not as whimsical, but I think he goes and makes toys.
No, but see, I think that's the key. Is I think you can link it to another Robin Williams movie.
This is Doubtfire.
So in the movie Toys.
I was going with that too. Yep.
Yeah.
And then Jumanji because it's a toy, and then
yeah.
Or he becomes Patch Adams.
It's all the same
He
universe.
never wants to grow up.
That's right.
And then you end up in Requiem for a Dream.
No, you end up in
photo booth or whatever it was. The photo development.
No, what the hell was it?
Movie.
Was it What Dreams May Come? When he...
Yes, What Dreams May Come.
Oh, that was a trippy movie.
That was yeah. I mean, that could be a movie for me because I remember seeing that as a little kid, not quite understanding, how heavy that subject matter was, and then watching it again as an adult, just going, Jesus. I don't know if I want to watch it while I'm married because that might mess me up a little more than it has before. That was not me.
Sorry, that was.
Oh, fun side noises.
Yeah, it's funny you heard that, but you never heard the real ones that I've been doing here.
Nice.
Yes. All right, I'm cutting that out from the actual episode.
So there were a lot of movies that I think were geared toward. I don't think they were geared toward, but like, I was looking for movies the other day at Walmart, and I saw The Dark Crystal. I went, ooh. But then, I know people are going to hate it. I've never seen it. And I never saw it because as a kid, it looked freaking scary. And as an adult, I picked it up. I went, there's no one in my house that's going to want to watch this because it still looks freaking scary. And I'm sure if I picked it up, and now like with Labyrinth, I'm like, that poor baby was kidnapped. Like, I don't know if I could watch these movies again as an adult and try to get this deep, meaningful, like cult-like appreciation for these films. Because I don't know if the time has passed. I might be able to appreciate, like you said, from like a maker standpoint, where I'm like, ooh, that's a practical effect, and that's whatever if you separate yourself far enough from it. But it still looked just as kind of freaky looking and like scary looking as I remember as a kid.
There's
they were.
There's a lot of those movies in the 80s now that would just be perceived differently because of passage of time. I mean, yeah, because of being an adult, because there's also different social standards now. Another example, really quick, is I just recently rewatched The Explorers, which was River Phoenix. Was it River Phoenix? And two other kids that kind of build this spaceship out of like a defunct carnival ride, and then go into space and meet some aliens. It was a really pivotal movie I saw when I was a kid because it was that aspect of science and fantasy and kind of going off on your own, like a real pre-adolescent type of adventure that was really popular in the 80s, kind of like in the same vein as the Goonies in a way, but a little bit less popular. And I'm watching it now as an adult, and I'm watching with my wife thinking, oh yeah, I kind of want Mark to see this. And I watch it, I'm like, okay, I don't know if I want Mark to see this. And there's all this like really subtle sexual innuendo that almost looks pedophile-ish in some ways,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
or predatory.
Back to the
Based
Future.
on
Hello.
I know that too. Like between the aliens and the kids, and it's just weird feeling it as an adult, and things that I never would have noticed as a kid.
Yeah, I find myself. I'm trying to think of things that I appreciate more now than I did as a kid. I'm sure there are examples, but I keep thinking of the inverse of that, where it's something that I really loved as a kid, and like you said, had elements in it that I didn't pick up on. That now I might be more apprehensive or second guessing wanting to show it to Samantha or whatever. Like The Sandlot, it's the 25th anniversary, and I was like, oh, I remember loving that movie. And I'm looking at the reviews, and there's like, was it Common Sense Media? Or there's a website that basically breaks a movie down into like elements of like language, sex, violence. You know, kind of trying to be neutral and objective, right, on these things. And I didn't realize that as much cursing in it as it did. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't really know what our stance is on that yet, because she hasn't developed a vocabulary with curse words in it. So I don't want to necessarily introduce them through movies, and maybe she won't pick up on them. I don't know. Like Apollo 13, I watched that as a kid, and that has a lot of cursing in it that I didn't realize. And so Catherine and I are kind of like slyly looking at each other, like we're not really sure what our stance is on that yet. Like it hasn't been brought up. So Sandlot has a lot of that in there, and some other movies. I mean, the common thing we've brought up before, and other people have pointed out, like PG back then doesn't equal PG now because the PG-13 was introduced later. Blah blah. Gremlins is a good example of that. Like that was PG, but and I remember loving that, yeah, as a kid. But now, I'm pretty sure it was. But now, yeah, I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. It's pretty. It's a lot
Big has
scarier
5 F-bombs?
Yes.
Wow.
I have to rewatch Big.
That's
Big was
really
such a good movie.
Yeah, but that's also like a pre-adolescent movie. That's not a movie for. Well, I mean, this. My
Donovan
opinion.
says it was rated PG.
Big also had a almost sex scene.
Yeah, it was an implied sex scene.
Yeah. That actually was for adults. That was not a movie for kids, anyways.
I saw it as a kid.
Well,
there was
sure.
something special about me. I mean, my parents weren't some heathens. They were pretty conservative.
What I meant was it was intended for adults, not that kids didn't see it, because it looked. Because all the previews painted it to be this childlike type experience, and I think that when we were growing up, I think there was less discussion about what is appropriate, not appropriate.
I think back then, I think
things were assumed.
I think sex was a bigger taboo topic than language or violence, which I think is probably still the case now.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just looked up. Gremlins was the reason PG-13 was started. After it was like one of the last ones, they're like, okay, we need to readdress this. But I remember having like a lunchbox with Gremlins on it, and like all kinds of stuff, like comic books and like coloring books.
I remember one of the restaurants had a line of like Happy Meal type toys around. I think it was the second Gremlins movie when it came out.
Right.
Yeah, it was funny and weird. I mean,
you have the cute little furry
was,
thing that spawned a bunch of kind of silly looking frog monsters.
That's how it was pitched.
Yeah.
Because adults thought, oh, this is dumb and stupid. It shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this a couple weeks ago when we talked about RoboCop and other movies, so it's a little bit in the same category. But yeah, I don't know.
RoboCop. I don't think I can look at RoboCop in any different light.
Sure.
Now, because I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
There's no deep meaning, or there's really nothing that goes over your head. Like, it's pretty on the nose. There are drugs. There are bad guys. There's a RoboCop. That it spells it. I mean, the things that I think are subtle that people might be able to appreciate now is like the humor in that movie and like the satire and how like all the little TV commercials and stuff that happen. Like,
I'd buy that for $1.
yeah, like those might be the little things that you can have a different perspective on from a kid to an adult. But I think the general theme of RoboCop is pretty unchanging.
But you pretty much just described every action movie of the '80s, anyways.
Yeah.
Let's cuss, let's shoot things, kill things, get the girl, and that's really it.
One movie, Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is kind of like a modern escape room, but like with real consequences. Part of me was like, I kind of want to do those puzzles. Like that seems kind of fun. Like I know that
water in the bucket.
Yeah, like you're a terrorist and you got to get to this payphone and dial this. Like that seems kind of neat. I kind of want to do that, but
they've
like
done AR games like that.
So that was definitely more appealing as an adult than it would have been as a teenager watching that movie. The intent of that movie, I think, changes.
So how about like Lord of the Rings, the movies? When are you going to introduce those to your kids? Like there's no language, but this definitely has some scarier possible moments,
Yeah.
I think the biggest hurdle for a Lord of the Rings movie is making sure they have the attention span to make it
That
to
too.
the end.
That too.
I didn't make it through Fellowship until probably the 5th time I watched it.
Wow.
Because it was so freaking long.
Yeah.
And
But those are
Yeah, it
traditionally
took
like books that you could read to a child, right? Like The Hobbit.
I had to read The Hobbit when I was in 7th grade.
Right.
Like
Never
it was a
read
school
it.
book. I tried to get the kids to watch Lord of the Rings with me one time, and then like the orcs came out, and I got scared, and they didn't
Right.
want to watch
That's
it.
what I'm thinking of, yeah.
So like, yeah, the kids are like, I think they're too young for that, just because they're purposely scary,
Right.
and there's a bunch
You
of
can't separate
gratuitous
it. Yeah.
war scenes. The story and the fantasy and the whimsy of it all will be lost on the fact that there's just like monsters running around.
Right. That's what I keep thinking about, yeah.
Yeah.
How about Indiana Jones movies? The 3.
Mm-hmm.
Our
See, that
perception
one-
of them, or
Either one.
when we're introduced to our kids.
That one messed me up when I was a kid.
Mola Ram.
Well, no, not yeah. Temple of Doom messed me up.
Monkey brains.
Yeah, that whole scene, the bugs, the monkey brains,
And all the
baby
snakes fell out of the
baby
big snake.
snakes.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that is something I realized growing up. I'm watching that scene the other day, and I'm like, that's not how snakes have babies.
Some of them do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ugh, never mind.
Some have their eggs are inside, and then they hatch inside, and then they're just kind of bleh outside. Yeah. Some of them have external eggs, and some of them have internal eggs.
You learned something.
And
new
I
every day.
learned that because of that movie. And I went, wait a minute. And then I looked it up, and I'm like, well, I'll be damned. You are a college professor, Dr. Jones.
The third one, I think I could get away with Crusade, because that really wasn't scary as much as until that one scene at the end. But that's just more like a drama and puzzle thing.
Yeah. One that Catherine and I recently watched, which I really appreciated for like the artistry behind it. We watched Pinocchio, the original.
That movie scared me when I was a kid.
And then at the very, like the end, the last like third of the movie is so weird. I don't know what they're trying to say, like with all the like kids turning into donkeys, like corrupting them, I guess, with like the smoking
And the
cigars and the, yeah, there's like so many
What?
weird offshoot
Yeah,
things.
but that was
Pinocchio
really-
drunk.
it's not really offshoot. That was supposed to be like a cautionary tale to teach a lesson to kids.
Yeah, but did it?
It was lost on me.
Well, I didn't say
It was lost
did.
in an
I mean,
adult, and I'm just like,
but-
what? I didn't remember
but
any of
see,
that.
Well, that's because we weren't kids, and we weren't
the
even alive
30s,
during
yeah.
that time.
It's like in middle-aged Netherlands.
Yeah.
Racist crows.
No, because it was supposed to signify what kids were actually doing out on the streets, and it was supposed to be like this cautionary tale of this, consequence of living a life this way.
You turn into donkeys, people. You get taken
Yep.
away.
Don't turn into a jackass.
One show that I did go back to watch, now that I'm thinking about it, that I kind of like a lot of the serious moments definitely went over my head, was Family Ties. If you guys haven't watched any episodes of that as an adult, for like the age that it came out, like the time period it came out, it's surprisingly like raw for a lot of the scenes, and like it's got some really like hard-hitting moments. Like there's parts in there they talk about like one, I think it was like the daughter, she gets like hit on by like one of like a friend of the family. It's like an older guy, and they go into that like how the creepiness and like the sexual predatory stuff, and they go into it like pretty heavy. I'm like, wow, I can't believe this was actually aired. And it's just like they made it more real. It was like, yeah, it's a sitcom and there's lots of jokes and Michael J. Fox runs around. It's pretty funny. But then they got like real fast. And I was impressed and surprised that that level of seriousness can be like presented back then, you know?
That was more commonplace in the 80s because we actually had some federal legislation about what TV shows could and should do in some ways. You know, people were actually learning a lot more moral lessons from TV.
Yeah, but then that got rescinded, and then we have Mask and Centurions and G.I. Joes and all. Like now, it's just like a giant commercial.
All those were actually part of it though, because they had certain regulations they had to abide by in those shows. They found certain ways around it a little bit, but that's why you had that end part of every G.I. Joe episode about knowing is half the battle. That was mandated. That was a federal mandate that had to be part of that kids show. And a lot of that stuff got stripped away, which is why we got so much weird stuff in the 90s. It was so irreverent and off color. No pun intended.
Did you guys see the preview for, I guess it's like a documentary about Mr. Rogers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God, I don't know if I can get through that one.
It got you in the feels, didn't it? Well, little Mr. Rogers with the creepy puppets and all the stuff. And I'm like, yeah, even as a kid, I'm like, yeah, it's Mr. Rogers. It's just this thing that was on that kind of weirded me out a little bit. Yeah, we'd watch it because it was nice. And now, as an adult, you look back and you're like, yeah.
That was a little weird.
You had a terrible budget. You wanted to do nothing but reach children and make them feel valuable and stand before Congress and pretty much validate your entire existence as a profession and win over the United States government. Like that.
They had what was it? Drunk History did a bit on him. And it was Colin Hanks was Mr. Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
And they went over all that. It was really cool.
He's like,
if you watch the actual like recording of him sitting in front of Congress, like
it's
in
moving.
Student speech, yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
it makes you like if you were to look now at modern politics versus Mr. Rogers just speaking from the hip, like it gives you it makes you really hate life now. Like as it did
anymore?
Huh?
More than already?
Yeah, like
the outlook on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the few honorable and wholesome characters or personalities that didn't eventually turn, right?
Yes.
Like for one reason, whether it's justified or they really did it, there's a lot of times there's like a spin, like of some good thing, like Elmo, the most perfectly perfect. Like they had a documentary which was super awesome on Netflix before all that stuff hit, and when it did, you're like, oh, like is that and Cosby and like all these other, granted that was a character he portrayed, but that. Of course, you would hope the person had some sort of value.
Still super creep.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of those.
How sad is it that we've come to expect that? Like nobody could actually really be that good. It's got to be something bad.
I mean,
Yeah, that's the point we're at right now, and it stinks.
Well, that's why people all the time ask me, like, oh, so just like Bob Curse, like whenever you're in the shop, I'm like, no, like he's a legitimately real person. And when Evan and Caitlin came and we released that video with the ping pong table, people in the comments were like, I don't get their act. I'm like, that's not an act. That's who they are. And people are always looking or just assuming that people that seem genuine on TV or on the internet or whatever have just some horrible, dark, like 50 Shades of Grey room in their house or something where they can just be themselves. And like, no, there are people in the world that are just genuinely nice or believable or honest or ethical people.
I think all those comments are from California because I don't think we know what that is here.
It's funny you mentioned the cursing bit because like comparatively, you see like Bob, and then you take Adam Savage, who has admitted he's like, if I'm not on camera, every other word out of my mouth is a curse word. Which kind of you look at him and go, yeah, I can see that. But if you told me like, yeah, every other word out of Bob's mouth is a curse word, I'd be like, really? Because I mean, Bob's kind of the maker equivalent of Mr. Rogers at this point. Like he's like this.
Oh man,
I knew that was coming.
He's the wholesome dude.
I'm gonna get my phone real quick.
Shots fired.
You should.
Because he's always like compare the two. They were both.
My neighbor.
I mean, Bob was never a sniper that we know of, but
So that was. I was going to get back to that rumor.
They're both always happy and wholesome. And if Bob went in front of Congress and started talking about the importance of getting kids to make stuff, I'd expect it to be along the similar lines.
It would just be all the congressmen asking him, like, so you can reset my internet password? Because Zuckerberg wouldn't do it.
Don't remind me, man. That was so horrible.
Now I'm thinking of not necessarily one property that I appreciate more than when I watched originally, was pretty much anything Jim Henson did.
Word.
Like, I appreciate a lot of his stuff way more now than when I first watched it. And I loved it originally, but just all the retrospective stuff and like if you ever like going back to the feels kind of thing with Mr. Rogers when you watch him on testifying, if you ever watched like any of the clips from the funeral, like the wake or I guess or whatever, they had like a special thing for Jim Henson when he died and had like a lot of the people come up and like say things, and they had like various members of Sesame Street and the Muppets and all these things, and they sung like Rainbow Connection and all these things. It was just like it gets you. It's pretty moving.
I'm still pissed at him.
Jim Henson, that he died.
Yeah. A cold, or the flu, or a cold
pneumonia. Yeah.
God, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, you want to like a completely random feels that I got about Jim Henson was the epic rap battles, Jim Henson versus Stan Lee. There were some lines in that I'm just like, oh my God. It just hits you really, really hard. And I'm just like, oh man, I miss Jim Henson, man.
So do our kids have those deep underlying, like underappreciated in the moment properties
that are out now that they won't appreciate?
Yeah, like later? Are they going to wax intellectual about Super Y and the Octonauts when they're grown up?
Octonauts, maybe.
No, I hate that show.
The Wildcats, you guys.
It'd be Wildcats.
Man.
I didn't see that one yet.
You could totally transform into a panther.
Shape of Water.
Is it the Wonder Twins?
Yeah.
I think they're gonna watch the Lego Movie as an adult after watching The Matrix.
Yeah.
And see the alignment of those two.
Huh.
You know when?
Did I miss a fan theory?
No, it's the same movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
Will Ferrell is the architect?
Yeah, it's all based on like the first one though. Kind of like, the master builder is like being the one and seeing the code is like seeing all the Lego pieces and put it together. And Emmett
didn't choose to go. He didn't take the pill. He was dragged along.
Yeah. It's a minor difference. Trinity is the same thing as Wild Style, and you have Morpheus that's Vitruvius, and
who's Batman?
Batman's Batman.
I'm Batman. But speaking of, that's one person that I think I can appreciate more as an adult as Michael Keaton.
Oh.
Like, Michael Keaton went away for a long time. And now that Michael Keaton is back, Michael Keaton is awesome.
Yeah.
He does a great job. I haven't seen the Assassins or whatever movie that he was in
Oh.
most recently. But if Michael Keaton's in a movie, I'm going to watch it. He was good back in the day. I think he's better now.
In Homecoming, he was one of my favorite villains in the Marvel movies ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Far.
He was great.
The most compelling besides Loki. Even more so, I think.
Birdman? Did you guys watch
I
Birdman?
haven't seen that yet.
Yes.
I've been meaning
Great
to.
movie.
I haven't.
Thought it was great.
Super good. Like, besides just the movie being great, like, cinematically, an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Like, he does a majority of that movie are single takes. Like, really long sequences are single takes. And there's a part where they look in the mirror. And I remember I was watching it, and I was watching it with Tiffany. I'm like, what do you notice right now? She's like, nothing. I'm like, exactly. I'm like, you're looking into a mirror. I'm like, there should be a camera in that mirror. But there's not. I was like, that whole thing is digital, and it's little, subtle, awesome stuff like that. And I was like, this is a good movie. Edward Norton, too. I watch a movie with Edward Norton in it all day. Even the stupid
Even the
Hulk.
Incredible Hulk.
I like
Even the
the Hulk better than the Eric Bana one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Easy.
that's not even a question. That's like a fact.
I like Cheerios better than dog turds covered in milk.
And there's the title of the episode. I like Cheerios better than dog turds.
Okay, but throwing back to an older episode that we had about, not older, but we talked about board games recently. I will flip that on its head. This whole thing 180 degrees. So, like, those things I appreciated and loved as a kid, I freaking hate them as an adult.
Candyland?
The board games are messy. They are loud. All the pieces get thrown all over the place. I don't want to play them.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Like, I don't want to set up Kerplunk. I don't want to play Life because there's, like, one car because you guys lost all the little pieces. Like, they were way more fun as a kid, and now it's hard for me to relish in that same fun as an adult. Even though, like, it's the exact same thing, but my perspective has changed so much on a lot of the board games as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no way I would buy Crossfire for my kids. Not happening. That thing is loud. Those BBs are going to end up on the floor. Like,
One of their friends might come over and try and do an internet video of how many they can swallow.
Yeah. I'm going to get you guys Hungry Hungry Hippos for Christmas.
we had it, and I got rid of it.
We still have it.
No, I hated everything about that game. Let's just be loud, nonstop. And then, like, it has a function in the game where once the little balls fill up in a little pit, like, you flick them back into the playing surface. So it's not like,
So it
like,
never
there's
ends.
one that's a different color that you could win, but if you don't know that, you could just play the game perpetually and drive that insane.
Yep. Good times.
So that's one thing that has had the opposite effect.
So you're basically just an old codger, whether it's in the Sandlot or in your living room.
I am the embodiment of James Earl Jones in the Sandlot. More ways than one.
Get off my lawn / living room.
Leave me alone with my memories on the wall and my dog in the yard with you stupid kids with your erector set. Get out of here.
Something I remember from a kid that it's not as heavy as anything you guys mentioned, but I remember loving Thundercats and all the cartoons really. But you watch them as an adult and you're like, wow, I didn't think there could be bad acting in a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Thundercats is actually horrible.
Snarf.
I like Orko better than Snarf.
Well, I was watching one of the Toy Galaxies. Is that the name of that YouTube show?
Yeah.
Or channel? Yeah. So I was watching one the other day, and going back to what we were just recently talking about TV shows needing to have some type of message versus being like 30-minute perpetual commercials.
Yeah.
I was okay with that.
I'm still okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with here's a TV show about the toy that I have in my hand. Like, you're giving me imagination. You're supplementing my own imagination. So hooray for that. Like, I'm sorry it's not teaching me how to spell or, teaching me what a bill is, but it's fun and it was neat and I bought into it. And it was a social contract between me and Kenner and me and Mattel or whoever else was making those things that I was.
And Filmation.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, it actually seemed better to watch a show that was more relevant to the toys that I wanted or the things that I had and the way that I wanted to play.
I'll see what the big deal was. I watch Ninja Turtles over reading Rainbow any day.
Yep.
Do you guys remember all the PSAs in the 80s? I remember that one, like, don't drown your food. You had these little PSAs about not putting ketchup all over your food or these different condiments and to eat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can find all the commercials on YouTube right now. Don't drown your food. It was a slogan that used to play for several years in the 80s.
I need to play that Thanksgiving dinner at my in-laws' house. I remember the fried egg, that apparently that's what your brain on drugs looks like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And we weren't allowed to have any questions because he seemed very stern about that.
Is it really?
It's really messed up because all these like really important things, my brain goes to some comedic version of it, and the your brain on drugs thing was a skit on Robot Chicken, and the girl just starts going through town, smacking everything with a frying pan. I don't think I learned much from those. It's more the comedy.
So Sean from Maker on the Move mentioned Rocko's Modern Life and Ren and Stimpy.
Oh, yeah.
Rocko's Modern Life had a lot of adult jokes.
Yep.
I don't even know what that is.
Even now, I watched an episode of damn, what's that cartoon with the two kids? The one's got the triangle head.
Ed, and Eddie. Oh, Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas and
Excellent
Ferb, yeah.
show.
Yeah, very excellent show, but they had a scene where they catch the bad guy, and he's like, it's like they catch him and he's like, "Oh, great face mask." I was like, "No, he asked for that." He's like, "Yeah, it makes my voice sound cool. Listen, fava beans." I was like, "Wait, they just did a Silence of the Lambs joke in a kid show?"
Yeah, because they're written for adults watching them with your kids. They're brilliant.
Ren and Stimpy, like, I remember at the time Ren and Stimpy was this like new style of like edgy cartoon because it wasn't like sequential and it was like off kilter a little bit, and now like that would be completely blended in with the Rick and Morty's of now. But at the time I was like, this is stupid. It doesn't have a point. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, when you compare it to Rugrats, that's like these cute babies that are talking and they're like having baby antics and they can talk and versus like Powdered Toast Man. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I don't even know what the hell you guys are talking about.
It's Ren and Stimpy.
I mean, I know what Ren and Stimpy is, but I've never seen an episode of it. So the couple years older that I am compared to you guys must have really had, separated some of those things.
Well, that came out. Didn't that come out around the same time as like MTV had the animation, the liquid animation or whatever?
Yeah. That's when Alan Flux started.
Yeah, that
and the brain, Flux. The guy that lived in the dude's head.
Yep,
that
was an awesome show.
Ren and Stimpy came out of that style. In fact, it actually might have had some of the same animators, I think.
I don't know. Maybe. I think we need to tip a nod to Beavis and Butthead.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think
unfortunately.
Simpsons.
Yeah, The Simpsons and Beavis and Butthead for setting a path that like grown-ups can enjoy. Grown-ups are like older people, not little kids, can enjoy cartoons too.
I think a lot of the cartoons of like today though is a direct result of us watching them when they're little. We're the generation that has that nostalgia for the cartoons and the toys and all that. So there's people who are making cartoons for adults now because we're still going to watch them.
Well, yeah, because they saw, Ren and Stimpy and the Brain and Aeon Flux and those things that were cool then. You can have some cool adult substance.
Oh, That's unfortunate.
So if anybody in the chat or anybody listening to the episode when it finally gets released has any other kind of things you've watched as an adult that you see differently as a kid, we'd love to hear what you guys come up with too. I'm sure that we've kind of missed a few during the time we've been talking today. But you guys geeking out about anything extra that we didn't bring up in a previous episode? Talked about Labo, talked about Infinity War. We have all the summer movies that'll be coming up soon. You got Solo coming out.
Deadpool.
You have E3 coming up, so there's more video games on the horizon too.
True.
Nah.
Nope.
No. Pretty mild. Not as much geeking out.
There's anything cool on YouTube I haven't
I'm
watched.
geeking out because it's less than a month away from Maker Faire, where we're going to be in the Bay Area at San Mateo. I'm going to be there for 5 days. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be that's a huge point of geeking out right now.
Yep.
I'm excited just to see you guys again too. It's been what, year and a half, almost 2 years now? No, year and a half roughly. I think by that time.
Yeah, Tiff and I are going by ourselves. Awesome mom and daddy vacation too. We're pretty excited about.
All right, so we would love to hear from all of you. Go ahead and check out the Making Geeks website. Go to the contact page if you'd like to send us a question, any suggestion for the show that you like. And then right there on the homepage, you can listen to all of our past episodes. Take a look at all of our past guests. I'm sure that we're going to have quite a few in the future. And right there on makinggeeks.com.
And hit us up on the social medias. Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast, and Facebook and Twitter at Making Geeks.
And we'd like to thank our marvelous patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks for their pledges and donations and contributing their hard-earned money towards our little podcast here. We definitely appreciate you guys more than we can say, even more than we say every episode. And I'd like to thank our top patron, Mr. Seth Williams, for being the reigning champ. It's pretty awesome. So thanks for so much for your support, dude. We hope to see you at another event sometime soon. And if you want to help us out, head over to patreon.com/makinggeeks.
And if you want to find out more about us individually, you can find Sean's work at geekbuilders.net. Mark is at asylum-3d.com. Wes is at geeksmithing.com. And my work is on thepiworkshop.com. I would like to thank everybody for hanging out with us during this episode. It's always nice to put nostalgia in perspective from our young adolescent brains to or apparently my grumpier, older curmudgeon brain. If you like this episode, stick around for more. We put out, this is our Wednesday episode, so our regularly scheduled Saturdays are coming out. And still, you can download us on iTunes, on Spotify, on Stitcher, on everywhere else that you can find podcasts. We're everywhere. So, thank you all for coming. Yes?
Yeah.
And one more thing, too, is if you've been enjoying the show, which we hope you are, and you listen through iTunes, go ahead and consider leaving a review. That definitely helps the show, and we actually love hearing the direct feedback, too.
The funnier, the better. If you make it silly, we'll read it on air. So get on there, make it star appropriate, and make it funny. But with that, so that's our call out, our call to action. There you go. You always need a call to action. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. We truly, truly appreciate it. And as always, we hope you have a fantastic week.
Take care, everyone.
Enjoy Avengers. Don't spoil it.
Yes, no spoilers.
Yes, don't be that guy. You will be hunted down.
See you guys.
All right.
And for our YouTube audience, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks,
Sean, we'll see you soon, buddy.
Yeah, Sean, hook me up or send me a message on Instagram if you want to stop in.
See you, Donovan.